So it has been a hot minute since I have last embroidered in this room. This past year didn't go quite according to the plan that I had in mind for my business. This room has slowly kind of been taken over by non-embroidery things. So here I'm just trying to tidy up, clean up, and kind of reclaim this space for my business and for working on hand embroidery things. As I am working on getting back in the groove of jumping into my business. So basically this past year, I had the intention as I went down from working 5 days a week to working 4 days a week to work that 5th day on my business to try and add more listings to my shop and to grow my income. But spoiler alert, it did not work. Basically, I was pregnant the entire year, and while our little baby was planned, I just didn't realize how physically taxing and tiring it would be to grow a little human. So instead of using that 5th day to work on my business, I used it to recoup and rest just to feel okay and make it through my weeks as I was still working. So while my business life has been very uneventful and not great, my personal life has been absolutely amazing. We are so thrilled to say that we ended up having a little boy. He's just a little bit over a month old, and we are absolutely loving life with him. At this point, it does feel like we've gotten our bearings. We have a little bit of a routine and a rhythm, and so life is just feeling so good. We are so grateful to have him and so blessed. And with that being said, because we have our bearings, I feel like I'm ready to jump back into my business and to try and make something of it. So this has been what I would consider my first official week back at it and working at my business, which I have been just feeling so pumped for. So I kicked it off with this cozy sunflower fall embroidery pattern, just feeling inspired by the season. I actually designed this pattern 2 years ago, but I wasn't quite content with it and I wasn't sure how I wanted to stitch it, so I just never got around to it. But I was feeling inspired to try again, and I just added a few design elements, and I actually was quite pleased with the pattern. Now, embroidering the pattern was the easy part. The hard part was remembering all the steps it takes to get this pattern up and ready to go on Etsy. Not because it's anything difficult, just because I feel like it's honestly been a year since I last uploaded a pattern to Etsy, so I just feel a little bit rusty of getting things prepped and ready to go. But whenever I make a pattern, I always save everything in my Canva account so that I can just kind of update all of my templates with the new pattern, making it fairly simple. Though I feel like since kind of my year of not making patterns, Canva has had a couple updates, and I feel like I'm a little bit was struggling with this to figure things out, but I got it figured out. I got my images for my Etsy listing prepped and ready. And then I also worked on designing a thumbnail for my YouTube video. I went ahead and recorded the stitching process of this pattern. Sometimes I like to do that. I don't do it for every pattern, but sometimes I like to do that to kind of help market a pattern or make it an option, so whenever people download my PDF patterns from Etsy, they can follow with the stitching steps and the instructions without the video, or if they kind of want a visual to stitch along, they can choose to watch the YouTube video. So it's totally up to them, but it was fun to make it. It's honestly a simpler YouTube video to make. And then whenever I go about designing the thumbnails, I create a couple different options of them, and then I choose whichever one is my favorite to be the face of my YouTube video. since making that little sunflower pattern, I feel like things are starting to come back to me, and I feel like this has been like relatable to whenever you don't exercise for a long time and then you exercise again and your muscles are a bit sore and you feel a bit awkward for the first bit. I feel like that's my experience with making patterns. Like, it feels like it's been a year since I last did this, so I kind of forget my routines and my processes. And whenever you do something for the first time, like, it just feels hard because it's new to you. And so I feel like I'm definitely been a little bit rusty, but after making that first pattern, things are coming back to me. And after making the first one, I feel like I am remembering. Things have sparked in my brain again of, I have this is easy, and now I'm ready to jump in and make a bunch more patterns. So because of that, and just the success I had with making that first pattern and just remembering everything, it just feels so good, and I felt so pumped and excited. So I have gone ahead here and designed my next pattern that I'm super excited to work on. I'm still feeling inspired by the sunflowers. Honestly, flowers have been something that's kind of intimidated me to design in the world of hand embroidery, because I feel like most of the embroideries you see are flowers. So I've always kind of stayed away from them just because they're so mainstream. But I'm a little bit excited to like try and create something out of my comfort zone. And so I'm honestly loving how this pattern is turning out, and I'm super excited to stitch it. I feel like something that can be difficult for me in the hand embroidery process is picking a color palette, and so sometimes I can feel a little bit stuck with that. But honestly, I love the color palette of the last pattern that I made, so I'm probably just gonna stick with that as I'm feeling like I'm on a roll. And I love, my favorite color is orange, so I love the colors of the sunflowers I picked for the last pattern, so we'll stick with that to make this a pattern and to keep my momentum going. And I'm super excited to see how it turns out with the actual stitching process of this pattern. All in all, I feel like this has been a really good and productive first week back at working at things for my hand embroidery business. So far, I stitched up that pattern, I turned it into a YouTube video, I created the PDF file for it, and then I even felt inspired to make this new sunflower pattern that I plan to stitch next week. So I'm feeling really good, feeling like I'm getting the hang of things, and super excited to be jumping back in, as sometimes in the past, like, I have experienced burnout. I'm definitely not feeling that right now. I mean, we'll touch base whenever or if that hits again, which I'm sure it will. But for now, I'm just taking advantage of the creativity that I'm feeling, and I'm super excited to bring you along for the journey. And I'm honestly just so pumped and excited for this year. Because I had my son, I feel like I'm getting to experience like one of the greatest perks of moving to Canada. I'm actually a US citizen, but I moved here about 3 years ago and became a permanent resident because my husband's Canadian. But because I worked this past year with my 9 to 5, I had my son, so now I'm on like the Canadian 1-year maternity leave. And so I'm just feeling so grateful for that, for the opportunity and the time, and just like how Canada values the family unit of being able to stay home a whole year with my son. So I'm super excited to bond with him and to grow as a mother and kind of learn what that role is like. But I'm also excited to be able to have the time to work on my business so that in the future, whenever my maternity leave ends, hopefully I'll be to the point where like it's okay okay if I just work a part-time job because of my income from Etsy and from YouTube. But who knows, maybe if things get really crazy and really good, like maybe I could stay home full-time as a mom and do this on the side. So we'll see. I'm super excited. I'll be sharing the journey as I go with some more vlogs. I'll be sharing like some weekly updates and also like my income statistics. So feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of that. And until next time, my friends, happy stitching or happy business planning, happy embroidering. Yeah, catch you in the next one. Bye.